Hi, everyone. Welcome to another KE Report webinar. This webinar, we are featuring Tombill Mines, traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol TBLL. I'm your host, Cory Fleck, and we will be taking questions throughout this webinar, so please feel free to use the question function within this software to send those questions directly to me. We've already had a number of questions come in, so I will be interjecting those throughout the presentation as it dictates and relates to the slides. I am joined by Adam Horne, the CEO and chairman of Tombill Mines, also Tim Twomey, the senior advisor, geology. We are going to be working through a general corporate overview here of the company and really then focus on what's coming for the exploration and some of the key catalysts for the company. Adam, let's start off with you. Please take it away. Get us going into Tombill Mines, please.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Cory, for that kind introduction. Before I move forward, I just want to point out the company disclaimer, and hopefully all you kind people who are on this webinar have taken a look and looked at the forward statement and adjacent property disclosure. Tombill is a very, very simple exploration story in Canada, I think, relative to many others out there. We are royalty-free. We have a royalty-free property in northern Ontario, about 250 kilometers north of Thunder Bay, where we own all the claims. We have three groups, but the main one we're going to discuss is the Tombill main group. That group is down plunge from our neighbor, the Hard Rock Project, which is 60% owned by Equinox. And that has demonstrated a resource of about 11.5 million ounces, of which 6.5 million is underground. That's measured and indicated, inferred, and then another 5.5 million is proven and probable open pit mine, which you can see here. So we are hoping to do the same type of exploration program that our neighbor has done, and we have already achieved some pretty interesting and very similar results to that. With regards to our management team, I'd like to point out that we have three people who have supreme local knowledge. One of them is joining me today is Tim Twomey. I refer to him as Mr. Geraldton because he really established the Hard Rock Project with zero resources from 2008, and it's matriculated from there. Then another person who's in our group is Ben Cleland, who worked for Tim up to 2012, and then Tim retired and he took over Tim's position at the Hard Rock. And then I'd also like to mention one of our advisory directors, who's also quite a large shareholder, is Gordon Reed, who was the chief operating officer of Centura, and up to December they owned 50% of Tombill. And they bought, not 50% of Hard Rock, Premier Gold, and they bought that 50% stake for about $200 million in 2016. Plus, they committed a lot of capital to do the additional work that's got Hard Rock its permits and ready to turn into a mine. We have quite a substantial cash position, around $6 million as we speak.
Okay. Let's keep moving on. Everybody, again, you can send in your questions when you want them asked, and please, I'll save them up too if needed.
This is a very brief history of Tombill. The bottom line is the Geraldton Camp, of which Tombill is an integral part and probably the middle of, was really established from a mining perspective from 1935 to 1970. Approximately 3 million ounces of gold were extracted during that period. Tombill itself was founded by Tom and Bill Johnson, two well-known prospectors. They had capital from Newmont at that time, and we had two past producing mines that came under Tom and Bill's leadership, which is the Tombill mine itself and Tamora.
Real quick, just a quick question regarding some of the historic work. What can you tell us about some of the previous drilling? It seems like there hasn't been too much drilling done on this project, recently at least.
Well, no, I think it's more than recently. We had, the family has before going public, who still is the major shareholder of the business, did not do much drilling work or exploration work. The property was purchased in 1981 by the family, and between now and essentially January 2021, very little was done. I mean, it was, and the reason for that is we were waiting on what Hard Rock was doing. Also, the price of gold wasn't really in our favor, and probably moreover, we didn't have the suitable colleagues to do a project like this, such as Tim and Ben and others we've built. So we didn't have the human resource angle properly mapped out. We had our focus on other things. So we've done very little work, and I think Tim can give you even some more granular detail on that, because he has done a lot of work looking over some of the minimal historical findings.
Yeah, that's right. You want me to elaborate on that?
Yeah, just very quickly, if you may.
Yeah. Well, as a geologist, I have to admit I'm really surprised how little modern exploration's been done on the Tombill. And you look at the most recent geology map of Tombill, it was published in 1951. And basically the old showings from the prospectors in the 30s and the 40s, they did some stripping and some short, shallow diamond drill holes. All they were looking for is narrow, high-grade intercepts, never looking for anything wide or low-grade. And so they just stopped exploring. And so the first thing we did, obviously, when we started our exploration program, was do some modern exploration. So we did some airborne mag with a drone, magnetic survey, very tight line spacing at 50-meter line spacing, very high quality data. And from there, we're just building on, and we have drill targets that we're drilling as we speak.
Okay, so you guys have now isolated the drill targets. So let's move on. Let's talk about some of the past producers and the current resource here.
Okay, I mean, this map really illustrates where Tombill is in the Geraldton camp. As you can see, we're sort of in the middle. We are surrounded, and that's why we call ourselves a donut hole, 360 degrees by greenstone, which is 60% owned by Equinox and wholly owns the Hard Rock property, which I don't know if you can see my icon, is the green here. That's actually our property where we sold them some surface rights to move highway. But so we're 360 degrees surrounded. You think we're landlocked, but lo and behold, the Trans-Canada Highway happens to go right through the middle of our property. So that gives us great access. I've discussed how the Hard Rock property, which resource, which sort of starts here, goes for about 4.5 kilometers from here to our border, where they have that, where I mentioned 11.5 million ounces of gold that's being resourced. Moreover, between the 30s and 60s, they mined out 2.1 million ounces of gold in that period. So it's very gold rich. There's our Talmora, which is one of our past producing gold mines, and this is right here. Sorry, actually the namesake Tombill mines that we mined out. So what our intentions were at the beginning of this project, we obviously used the word closeology. I know it's used very much, and perhaps a malign term or overused term, but I think we've now, and we'll show this later, we have done some deep drilling, and we've established that the main zones, especially the F zone, has plunged across onto our side, and we have, and we'll show pictures later where we have similar mineralization, and you can see that. So we're really focusing on the deep drilling, but plus we're doing a lot of surface work in the northern part, and we'll get into that, and Tim has already talked about that earlier. Once again, the donut hole, the past mines, the production. It's probably worth mentioning the infrastructure and jurisdiction. That's probably second to none, and it's obviously with this property, the Hard Rock property, going to motion. They have built a camp for 500 people. They've said their intention really is to press the button to become a mine second half this year doing the construction. They've got all the permits, it's shovel ready. The infrastructure will be that much greater than it is right now, which includes the highway. There's an airport up here, 250 kilometers from Thunder Bay, and a population that's very supportive of mining jobs and developing their economy.
Adam, let's get into the one question that I know a lot of investors are asking. I got this question even before the webinar started, and that is, what kind of conversations have you had with the owners of the hard rock deposit? And, well, quite frankly, you're surrounded by some well-known companies. So any insights on your relationship to them or their interest even in the Tombill project?
Well, I mean, you can start here by looking at the stripes here. Those are actually surface rights that we've sold to our neighbors to enable them to build the mine. Those surface rights will help them move the Trans-Canada Highway, so they have access to their open pit. And this stripy area is where they're going to. I mean, their mill is going to be right here, which, by the way, is a massive mill. I think they're doing about 28,000 tons per day to feed that mill. So they're going to need a lot of iron ore to get through there. So we sold them some surface rights. Obviously, we've spoken to them, but they did change ownership. Remember in December, where they sold this asset and the surrounding for about $700 million US. But it's obvious as it plunges down. I'm sure there will be some discussion since we're right smack in the middle, but we've never entered in any transactions or things like that. But we've been good neighbors, and we wish them all the luck to build a great production center there.
Okay, sounds like you guys have already, kind of worked together to already help them out. So
yeah,
let's move on then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna get Tim to jump in here because he sort of did this slide. It sort of changed a bit, but this is the resource slide that shows the plunge from the Hard Rock project over to Tombill. Yep,
that's right. So that's a long section looking north, and you can see on the right-hand side the Tombill. The left-hand side is Tombill, and on the right-hand side is the Hard Rock project. So the F zone. I was VP of Exploration for Premier back in 2008 to 2012, and I actually put that press release out. The furthest west hit that Premier did on the F zone was at MM170 there, and that graded 18 grams over 20 meters, 18 grams of gold, and that's about 150 meters from the boundary with Tombill. And you can see the geology there. The shallow plunging of the F zone, and it's basically straight as an arrow for about 3.5 kilometers. So obviously our first target is to follow that up. And we in fact did hit that in hole 05A, which we've press released recently. And we graded 6 grams over 13 meters. So, and I can tell you the geology of that hit is exactly the same as the geology and just as robust as everything that I saw on the Hard Rock side for the F zone. And so we're continuing to drill that as we speak. So we have 2 drills on there right now. We call those drills our truth machines.
What about drilling or the follow-up work that Equinox could be doing here on their high-grade hit then? Any insights?
Well, I don't think there's much room to expand it. They already have that as a resource. And in fact, their underground resource that they've released publicly is over 6 million ounces of gold. And so that's something that they've already done work on. And it really reduces the risk for us because we know how robust that is. And the geological model continues on for kilometers. So this is giving us a very good target to follow up. And we thank them for it.
One thing I want to emphasize, Tim, is Ben mentioned this, that there was a vast amount of drilling that went on the Hard Rock property, like every 20.
That's right.
So when Tim says this is the zone, it really is, because they just kept on drilling, and it just kept on confirming, which I think basically, the zone, the F zone, which is the largest of the zones, and it represents the highest grade on this property and the most volume. But I think that's about 25 to 35 meters in width, and the height is established about 100 to 150 meters, and it's very consistent. So if you're looking at that, and I think density ratio is about 2.7. So with a 6 gram. The 6 gram per ton average, which is in the technical reports of the hard rock property, it just keeps being consistent. I mean, we see some wonderful holes here and here, but when you blend it all out, it's still quite a very strong and consistent plunge.
Yeah. So what type of step outs are you guys planning on doing here to follow up on your hit there, that 6 grams per ton over 13 meters?
We're going to be stepping out between 100 and 150 meters per parent hole to the west, and then we drill 2 daughter holes off of each parent hole. So this is the exact same recipe that we used at the hard rock side, and that's enough to get it into an inferred resource once we have enough drilling data.
Okay, so you can move fairly quickly to an inferred resource. Okay, let's keep moving through this then here, guys.
I think this is really a slide that Tim will do a better job than I will.
Yeah, and it just shows the complications right at the boundary. Interestingly enough, there's 2 post-ore diabase dikes that offset the mineralization. So that's taken us probably 4 drill holes to actually figure out those offsets and continue on. And now the 5A hit that we just released shows it back to that normal plunge line, which will continue supposedly as we drill that off to the west. So this is a plan view there.
Okay, so that explains a little bit on those first 4 holes then, hey? Because the first 4 holes, they kind of missed the zone, didn't they?
Yes, so it took us a while to figure out this complicated geological puzzle. And now we have it, and now we're clicking.
Now it sounds like you're going after it. Okay, thank you.
Well, I think Tim's responsible for both sets of rock here, so he might as well.
Yeah, I've taken both these pictures. One was in 2011, and the one on the left was this year, hole 05A. And you just see the F zone type mineralization. And that's what I meant by it's the same geological setting, same exact deformation and alteration and mineralization that we see on the F zone on both sides of the boundary. So that gives us a lot of encouragement. This zone continues on, and we're going to keep drill testing it as we go further west.
Okay, so consistency, that makes sense.
Yes.
Who wants to take this one,
here's
guys?
A longitudinal section. This one's a bit simpler, and it shows most of the hard rock project, and you can see their the schematic of their open pit. That's where 5 million ounces of proven ore reserves are. And then the underground resources, another 6.5 million ounces. Now, I got to remind you folks that this is in the middle of a historic past producing mines. And to me as a geologist, this is remarkable that the potential exists still in a historic mine setting to actually find new gold resources. So we're marching across the same way that hard rock side and drilling off that F zone with deep drill holes there. You can see the red dots every 100 meters with a parent hole and a 2 daughter holes on each one. And we're just going to march across for about 2.6 kilometers is the length of the target that we have on the Tombill side.
Okay, so you're just going to systematically expand that then, yes, by drilling essentially fences.
Yep, that's right.
We're just doing what they did. I mean, just to from a distance perspective, the underground where the 6.5 million ounces is 6 million ounces, it sort of represents 2.3 kilometers. Then you have the open pit, which is about 2 kilometers. So from that point to our border is about 4.3 kilometers. I'd say most of the purple is probably the F zone. And the reason I'm saying that is as a consequence of the F zone, if the F zone didn't exist and you found this resource with the other zones, you probably couldn't mine it because there's limited grade. But the F zone gives you the ability to get at these other zones because you've already expended the fixed cost. So it gives you economic leverage to go at these other things, and I think that's a pretty key.
That's a good point, Adam. And I just want to reiterate that we've been finding these subparallel zones as well, many others like it, beside the F zone. The thing is, we haven't actually hit those other subzones in their most dilatant corridor because we're finding them on the way down to the F zone. So this again is something that we're going to be looking at later, looking at these subsidiary zones and see if we can expand them and find where the wider sections of those are as well.
I mean, just a quick question here, guys. What's the grade of the open pit compared to the underground?
Grade of the open pit's about 1.5 grams, and that's typical. And the underground grade, the F zone grade would be about 6 grams, but you include all the other zones, and with a lower cutoff grade, you're going to get about 4 grams. And depending on which cutoff grade that's used. And you can see those in the 43-101 reports that have been published for the hard rock.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Once again, I'll hand this over to Tim. But now we're getting into how we're going to do this category. So
so we have a two-pronged approach here. Right now, we have 2 drills on drilling the deep target, and that's the F zone. So we're talking about 1 kilometer below surface and following at that very shallow plunge line about 10 degrees to the west. And you can see there's our recipe for inferred resource. So we're going to follow it along and leapfrog our drills every 100 meters and just continue westward for about 2.6 kilometers. So that's the number 1 prong. The second prong, though, of exploration is a near surface exploration program. And let's go to that slide. So that's our modern magnetic survey, the first modern exploration on the property since Adam's family's owned it. And to me, it's remarkable as a geologist to have this kind of potential at this stage truly is a unique opportunity. So from this, we are actually selecting other near surface low grade targets for stripping. And there's also historical showings that were found in the 30s, never followed up for low grade gold. And it just amazes me because, we went into the Hard Rock Project back in 2008 and started finding wide low-grade gold right in the middle of historic underground mines. So as a geologist, I feel there's potential for that same thing on the Tombill side. And so what we're doing is stripping off these targets. We'll be doing channel sampling and then re-ranking them with a simple Bayesian ranking system for drilling. So we'll do some short drill holes as well on our surface targets this summer.
Now, what's the status of the current drill program? How many holes have you guys done? And just remind everybody the overall program then.
The overall program has started with the deep drilling. So we're on our 6th hole right now, and that's continuing. We are also stripping our surface targets as we speak, and that's going on. And we'll be bringing in a drill to drill the near surface targets probably early next month.
So this is kind of a tough question here, guys, but to build up, let's say, a 2 million ounce resource, how much drilling is needed? How much money would that cost? Any insights here?
Well, we have enough money for phase 1 drilling, and that includes the deep target and the near surface targets. And then we have a budget for further drilling, depending on results, of course.
Okay. And again, you had already mentioned that you could move this into an inferred resource in the near term after the phase 1 program. Is that going to be possible? Is that a time frame that's doable?
Well, that's a good question. I'm uncertain about that. I would say phase 2 would be more certainty, just to spend the money on doing a resource. That I would suggest, just thinking out loud, probably towards the year end.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And then, I mean, we're not going to give it, but you can, as I did mention, sort of the widths and the heights of the neighbors and how far we're in. So some people can do sort of back envelope calculations and things on what we've, done to date and so forth. So.
Okay, sounds good, guys. We can move along.
Yeah,
right.
I think we can go. I think we can move over to the team side now. So we have a strong management team. John Alexander's got a very good background, CFO, and has worked with public companies. Tim and Ben. I've mentioned Elizabeth is in-house exploration manager, and she's assembling some further team as we transition from a consultancy to an in-house. And then Retta Jalabis does our corporate development IR, and he's the next JP Morgan banker. I'd like to mention our advisory board because they're all quite committed. They're owners of equity, and they put their money where their mouth is, so to speak. Quentin had joined via Crescat after we went public. I don't think he was aware when we went public, and they own 6% of the company, and he's very helpful and very constructive and gets his hands very dirty on this. Gordon Reed, I mentioned him earlier. He has an outstanding operating background. He ran one of probably the toughest mines in the world in Kazakhstan. He knows what he's doing. And then latterly, he was the COO of Centerra. So he really knows the hard rock property and laterally Tombill. And he's very helpful indeed. And then Ian Stalker from K92 is a large shareholder. So I think we have a good team to execute and give us direction and give us advice. And we use most of it, that's for sure.
Okay.
You don't need to go through that. That's the team. People can do that separately. I think people would like to know something about the capital structure. They're about 100, I'll round this off. They're about 150 million shares outstanding. There's close to 50 million in warrants and options. The average strike price on those are about 22 cents. So we'd be fully diluted around 200 million with extra change. Cash at March 31 was 7 million, but we're closer to 6 million, as I mentioned. With regards to who owns the business, who are the stakeholders, I mentioned our family, who have 51%. Then we have other insiders who are in the same lockup category as us, which is a sort of gradual 3-year. That's another 10%. Then on the institutional side, including Crescat, you have about 27, 28%. And then retail and high net worth is near 12%. These are some of the names on the right who participated when we went public. Basically, some decent large investors, both from Canada and Australia.
Now, when did a lot of these guys come into the stock, and what insights can you give us in terms of maintaining those positions as the company moves through this drilling and potentially raising more money?
Well, I can tell you they all came in December, the institutionals and Crescat. We hope as we go down the line and have more results like TB21005. So we go down the strike. Hopefully, we'll have more people more interested as we prove that out. I think we've got a lot of interest since we went public at 15 cents. Yet, we'd like to get a bigger fan club, and as we started, we were a closology play, and we were hoping to replicate what our neighbor did, and we have now established that we're a continuity play. And now the question is, how long is that continuity? How long is that strike? And then we overlap that with the near surface, which we didn't really have any expectations of in the early stages of going public, but now we feel there's a lot more potential there, and we've had some decent results over, high grade over small amounts. So we hopefully, we can prove that out. So we hope to get more shareholders and other capital, institutional capital coming in.
Perfect. One quick question regarding the family holdings there. Any escrow agreements or arrangements?
Yeah, we're all in escrow. Yeah, I'm sorry. Perhaps I didn't clarify it so well when I answered. We're all under a 3-year escrow agreement, the other insiders in the family.
Okay.
61, 60. So it's tightly. I mean, we've owned it for 40 years. We're not, it doesn't make a difference. We want to make sure this is a success and looking at the long term.
Hey, fair enough. Any interest in a U.S. listing too? That question came in a bit earlier.
Yes, that will be happening. We've already applied for it, and we're hoping between the 20th and 30th of July that we accomplish that OTC.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, we've got most of the application in.
Okay. That takes care of all the capital structure questions. Moving on. I
think that's sort of, I'll leave up the summary page, but I think it's really now questions. And I think, we're being short. I don't think I really need to re-emphasize. These are the clear selling points of Tombill.
And the focus really is around this exploration program. So a couple more questions that came in. How many holes do you think you would have to do in phase 2 in order to satisfy the idea of the deposit? I guess that means move into the deposit. And how deep on average are you going to be drilling some of those deeper holes?
Oh, those are good questions. We've planned 23 drill pads, and that will take care of that 2.5 kilometer strike length. And that's for the deep drilling. And we have 8 holes for the surface program in phase 1. And the deep drilling program, we're looking at 1 kilometer below surface on average. And for the shallow program, less than 300 meters.
Okay. What are your guys' average drill costs per meter, let's say?
It's about $200 a meter.
Okay. That's pretty good then. And then in terms
I wish it was cheaper.
Yeah, but overall, $200 a meter, that's all right. In terms of turnaround time,
it can be cheaper.
Now, guys, in terms of turnaround time from the labs, what are you expecting here?
1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We, believe it or not, Geraldton has its own lab owned by Acta Labs, and so I don't think many. That's how blessed we are with infrastructure.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Guys, can you just summarize, I guess, the overall drill program in terms of what investors should be looking for when the news starts to come out? What will you consider a success? What's crucial here to understand about this project and this asset moving forward?
Good questions. You want me to start, Adam?
Yes, please.
Well, deep program, we're going to continue to build on the F zone itself because that's the primary target at depth. And again, that 6 gram average is a good average grade, 6 grams per ton gold. And so we're going to continue to march westward on that at 100-meter centers. And also this summer, these short drill holes that we're going to be drilling on the surface program, we're going to be looking for 1.5 grams again over much wider widths, of course. And we're not going to be putting out press releases on every hole. We're going to be waiting. We'll do this in batches of, I don't know, 6 or so. And just do an orderly information to the market.
Okay. In terms of permitting, any more permits that you guys need to progress with these drill plans?
That's a good question.
No permits needed.
Yeah, we're extremely unique. I don't know if I emphasize, we own the land. We own these aren't crown leases or anything, so we don't need any exploration permits.
Perfect. So you can do what you want. Okay, guys, that wraps up the questions. I think everybody is just more or less waiting in anticipation to see what some of these drill results yield, especially for that F zone extension. Guys, I appreciate your time. Everybody, if you have any follow-up questions after listening and watching this, or just watching the recording, you can always email me, fleck@kereport.com. I will get Adam and Tim back on the show to address any of those questions and also follow up on some of the drill results. So, guys, thank you for your time, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Appreciate it.
Right on. Bye for now.